Welcome back, everyone. Glad to see you at the top of 2024. Happy New Year. Back at it again. You could say this is the officially first episode of 2024. Opening up, gonna give you a little bit of a treat, and that is a double feature review. Yes, we're gonna do a double billing of an unlikely pairing, and that is the latest Blumhouse horror supernatural film, Night Swim, and a biblical comedy in the Book of Clarence. But before we get to those titles, let's go ahead and take care of some biz. And that is to press like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well to notify you of any and all reviews to this channel. Hey, really quickly, I appreciate all the new subscribers, friends, family who've just been hitting me up via text or just word of mouth saying, hey, been watching you, love the best of your disappointments. Please continue, keep up that viewership. I want those numbers to just increase as this year goes on, and I'm just really appreciative. And that's why when you stop by here, I always thank you for choosing Man Cinema Reviews. I'm gonna go ahead and take an easy first film, and that is Night Swim. Yes, Blumhouse wanted to recreate the success that they had at the top of 2023 with Megan and go ahead and team up with James Wan to present a film that was a short film, a proof of concept, uploaded 9 years ago. Wow, 2014, really? 9 years ago. Wow, doesn't seem that long ago, really. Taking a proof of concept of, hey, what if you had a haunted pool? And the short was really just a young, attractive woman out for a night swim, sees a dark figure outside of the pool when she is submerged deep in the water, and comes up and this figure is gone. And turns out to be a ghost of some sort that comes out of the shadows at the conclusion. Within 3 minutes, what you could do with your imagination and how crucial and how effective that is to encapsulate the horror in a short 3-minute film. Now, in 2024, feature film starring Wyatt Russell and the beautiful Carrie Condon, Oscar nominated. She was great in the Banshees of Inisherin, having a backstory of a retired baseball player who has this degenerative disease that he's not allowed to swing at bat. Star in the making, really, and he wants to live a life of solace with his wife and 2 kids. They coming up on hard times. She's an administrative assistant at a school, and he's just trying to get his bearings, making sure that this disease doesn't overtake his life. I like the fact that it brings on the drama, and it could sneak that in a horror film. I want to give you the pros of this film first. I think Wyatt Russell is a capable actor. I like him in the lead. Carrie Condon, like I said, this film is just blessed to have her in this film. And she plays this man's wife. And their 2 kids as well are adapting to having to move every so often. But now they want to plant roots, and they get this house that is affordable and within their means, but it has a deep, dark secret where because of the pool in the backyard, there's disappearances. There have been deaths that surround the residents. So that's where the kids are starting to hear voices coming from the pool gutter and starting to see figures outside of the water. Even the wife goes out for a night swim, which basically is the proof of concept film, and sees a dark figure and comes up and thinks it's her husband because it looks like a ghostly figure of her husband, and kind of foreseeing the end of the film. And I don't want to give too much away, but again, great proof of concept, interesting setup. What if your pool was haunted? You had a string of murders and disappearances that were at the scene of the crime. However, unsolved and unresolved conflicts culminate into this family who are now victims of the ghosts of the past residents. of this house, and it's all surrounding the pool, the gutter, and a lot of this film is borrowing from films of the past. Even Jaws, when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, everything surrounding the water, this, supernatural threat, if you will. Also, they have a cat, and they borrow some scenes that feel reminiscent of Pet Sematary. And a lot of this is just wearing its influences on its sleeve, however, stretching into a feature film that feels like The Short. It doesn't have nearly as much meat as it should to even hold your attention at a mere 90-minute runtime. And that's where I have a huge problem, where, yes, great concept, proof of concept, the short film, very effective. But when you stretch it out to a 90-minute feature-length film, you gotta make it worth it. And like I said, Wyatt Russell and Carrie Condon do as much as they can with very little. The script feels very skeletal, and they feel like they fill the void. However, it doesn't nearly captivate you and hold your attention for the duration of the 90-minute runtime, which feels long. And when a film feels long, you gotta realize that we're coming to the territory of a horror film that's boring. And you never wanna do that. Cardinal sin of a horror film is just, I was disinterested, wasn't as scary as it ought to be. And that's what culminates in Night Swim. Unfortunately, this film is nowhere near Megan. It doesn't nearly have as much fun. The scares are not as continuous and as effective as it should be, and therefore I'm gonna have to give Night Swim a 1-star review. Going on to the Book of Clarence. Now, this is the director of The Harder They Fall. This is his second film, but like the first film, it was a Western of all black cast, and we have the same thing going on with the Book of Clarence. This is kind of the retelling of the Bible. A down on his luck man struggles to find a better life for his family while fighting to free himself of debt. Captivated by the power and glory of the rising Messiah, he risks everything to carve his own path to a divine life, ultimately discovering that the redemptive power of belief may be his only way out. And this is directed by The Bullets, James Samuel, and it's very reminiscent of films of yesteryear, old costume dramas, Spartacus, The Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur. A lot of the cinematography and the setups of this film are very reminiscent to films of that stature, which is a very hard undertaking to go through, and I think it comes with semi-successful results. I think when you have a cast this stack, Omar Sy, R.J. Kyler, Tiana Taylor, the list goes on and on. A great cameo, if you will, of Daniel Oyelowo as John the Baptist. This is set in AD 33, Jerusalem, and Jesus of Nazareth. This is about a guy named Clarence who doesn't really have faith, has fallen out with his brother Thomas, who is one of the 12 disciples. Yes, Peter and the rest of the disciples are in this film, and Clarence is a guy that is welching on a bet that he had in the beginning of the film. It opens up with a horse race with him and his friend Elijah going against Mary Magdalene, and they lose terribly. He wants to prove to the debt collector, and he wants to win the love of his sister. By doing so, he wants to mimic Jesus of Nazareth, and he wants to be a new Messiah and have a following of apostles himself when he is shunned from his brother Thomas, and he wanted to be the 13th apostle. And there's these inklings of comedic writing here, but you're not here for the comedy. You're here for the great adventure scope of the films of yesteryear, and it's more of a biblical Western, if you will. And the comedy is mixed results. I don't want you to come into this film knowing it's a comedy, as it was marketed as a comedy. I think the whole marketing is very false in its setup, but you should really go into a retelling of the Bible. And I know that might be controversial, especially to the Catholic Church, and what they're doing is rewriting scripture. Don't come to it with that as well. Again, this is a modern retelling. And what if Clarence was a man that walked among Jesus of Nazareth and had aspirations of healing people, and not with the miracles, but by goodwill and good fortune, and treating people with respect and wanting the good for the greater community as a whole. And that's what Clarence is trying to do. However, it could be misconstrued because he's trying to get enough money to get out of debt, and he's doing these quote-unquote miracles, which he treats as parlor tricks, trying to cure blindness or help someone come back from the dead. Again, very blasphemous, and a lot of religious folks will take this film to task, and I think that's why it's getting mixed reception. But I don't think you need to go into the whole theology of it. I don't think you need to go into the religious aspects with all that seriousness. Again, this is a modern retelling of the Bible, and a man named Clarence who was walking in the same sandals as Jesus. Again, a mere mortal, however, aspirations of bringing good wealth and fortune to people without having the divine and being immortal. This is a man that walks the path of his own drum, has a group of his own disciples, and I think that's where you can see the creative aspects and the stylization, and it doesn't need to, even though it feels bombast and it feels pretentious, the stylization, having a great soundtrack, reminiscent to 70s blaxploitation films. I like the fact that the director has executive producer Jay-Z and his connections to the music industry, and creates a soundtrack that feels like a character with Jerusalem and the people and Jesus of Nazareth. And it's a telling of the whole story within song, because each song hits. It's a bop, it's a banger. And he's trying to win the love of his life and trying to walk the path of the righteousness. And Clarence is just a man with flaws, but not to be confused with Jesus of Nazareth, but a man that wants to bring miracles to Jerusalem and heal people in his own way. And again, test his faith, because he didn't have faith in the beginning. And you see this evolution of a man named Clarence. And that's what I took it. Lakeith Stanfield, I happen to be a fan of ever since I seen him in Atlanta, Short Term 12. And yes, Snoop Dogg in Straight Outta Compton. But this is his film, and he really commands the screen. If you were a naysayer before, this guy feels like a flash in the pan. His just deadpanness, his monotone. He has such a arc in this film. He's playing two characters. He's playing Clarence, his brother Thomas, and he makes Thomas completely different than Clarence. And when they're face to face, there are moments where he brings a lot of levity and a lot of depth dramatically to Thomas's role, and where the brothers are at odds, where he thinks that Thomas leaves to be among Jesus of Nazareth and to become one of his disciples. Clarence sees it as a man that left his mother and his brother in ruins, and this has Thomas reflecting, and by the end of it, their whole trajectory changes as well. I like the fact that it takes the characters of the Bible and retells it in the book of Clarence, the soundtrack, the cinematography, the direction, stylized and as creative as it may be, it's not without worth, without creative, artistic integrity. And I think this director proves himself time and time again that he is a man with a vision. I liked him as a Western. I gave his The Harder They Fall a 3.5. I'm gonna go ahead and just think that this is a slight step up. I'm gonna give the Book of Clarence a full-fledged 4. I'm a man of faith. I believe as a Catholic, but I know that the retelling of the Bible is somewhat daring and, dare I say, captivating. You want to see how individuals approach these scriptures. And I think that James Samuel and crew do it well. I think each and every character brings some depth to their characters, and the acting is superb. The stylization, the direction, the soundtrack is amazing. The only flaw is that I don't think that the audience, not realizing that it's a retelling of the Bible, is prepared, as it's billed as a comedy, to see the end result, as you know, very well know how the film ends for Jesus. But there is comedic touches that I think miss the mark somewhat, and that's where I think that the film falters and fumbles a little bit. It does seem uneven, does seem disjointed, but take it in as an experience and see the vision of the director, and I think you'll have a different take on it, and in my perspective, a very creative one at that. Thank you very much for checking in with Manson Reviews. Much more highly anticipated films of 2024, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.